The city was dressed in rain. Neon reflections danced on the pavement as Ray sat alone at the far corner of Café Lorin, one hand curled around a cooling cup of coffee, the other anxiously scrolling through his phone screen. The time read 9:46 p.m. She was supposed to arrive at 8. Nina. He'd repeated her name in his head like a prayer for the last 3 months. She was the one who pulled him out of his silence. Late-night chats, shared playlists, voice notes that turned into confessions. Ray had never even touched her, but somehow she'd touched something deeper, something raw. He remembered how she described herself, soft-voiced, thoughtful, more heart than sense. They'd planned to meet in person tonight for the first time. He had bought cologne just for the occasion. He had practiced how to greet her without seeming too eager. But now the night was slipping into uncertainty, minute by minute. The bell above the cafe door jingled. Ray looked up, heart thudding. A woman entered, not Nina. She was taller, more poised. Her hair was tied back carelessly, and she carried an umbrella dripping with rain. Her eyes scanned the cafe until they met his. "Ray?" she asked. He blinked. "Yes?" "I'm Leah, Nina's friend. She couldn't come." The words struck like cold water. Leah slid into the seat across from him, shrugging off her coat. "She asked me to come, said you'd probably still be waiting. I told her it was a bad idea, but here I am." Ray's expression flickered between disappointment and confusion. "Is she okay?" "She's scared, I think. Said she wasn't ready to meet you. That maybe you were expecting something she couldn't be." Silence pressed down between them. "I know this is weird," Leah said gently, "but she didn't want you to feel stood up, so she asked me to keep you company." Ray hesitated. Then, with a small sigh, he nodded. "I've been stood up before, but never like this." They ordered tea. Ray kept glancing at the door, half hoping Nina would appear with an explanation. She didn't. Leah spoke with ease, her voice calm, her eyes surprisingly empathetic. She told Ray she had heard a lot about him, that Nina used to replay his voice notes and smile quietly. "She liked you," she said. "Still does, I think, just doesn't know how to handle it." As the night deepened, so did their conversation. Ray found himself loosening, talking more than he expected to, not about Nina, about himself. Leah listened. When the cafe finally dimmed its lights for closing, they stepped outside. The rain had stopped and the streets shimmered. "Let me walk you," Leah offered. Ray looked at her. Something about her presence soothed the sting of disappointment. He nodded slowly. As they walked side by side into the quiet night, he thought to himself, "I had waited for Nina all night, but I left the cafe with Leah." The air was crisp as Ray and Leah wandered through the dimly lit streets, the city hushed, under the weight of midnight. Their steps echoed on the wet pavement, a slow rhythm that seemed to mirror the silence between them. Neither rushed to fill the quiet. It was a comfortable stillness, unexpected, but not unwelcome. Ray kept glancing at Leah. There was something disarming about her, something more than just a friend of the girl who hadn't shown up. She didn't try to explain away Nina's absence, nor did she overstep by prying. She simply walked beside him, matching his pace. "You know," she said eventually, "sometimes people run from things they want the most." Ray exhaled through a humorless chuckle. "Yeah, I guess I'm just tired of being someone people run from." Leah looked over at him, her expression soft. "Maybe she wasn't running from you. Maybe she was running from herself." The thought lingered in the air between them. They turned a corner and stumbled upon a 24-hour diner, its warm light spilling out onto the street like an invitation. Without exchanging a word, they walked in. Inside, the diner smelled of coffee, syrup, and nostalgia. They slid into a booth. Ray ordered pancakes. Leah asked for tea with too much honey. The small talk faded, replaced by stories, fragments of their pasts. Leah spoke about her childhood, the year her mother left, the man she once loved who never came back. Her voice trembled, just slightly, when she mentioned betrayal. Ray listened, truly listened, for the first time in a while. She wasn't just a beautiful stranger filling space. She was a woman wounded by her own truths, and in her pain he saw pieces of his own. By the time they left the diner, the sky had begun to hint at morning. A lavender hue hovered on the horizon. Outside, Ray hesitated, then spoke. "My place isn't far," he said, "if you need a ride or to rest." Leah didn't answer right away. She looked at him as if trying to read what he wasn't saying. Finally, she nodded. Ray's apartment was modest, clean, quiet, with shelves of unread books and a window that overlooked the sleeping city. They stepped inside, the silence louder now, more intimate. Leah sat on the edge of the couch, tracing a pattern on the fabric. "You don't have to explain anything," she said softly. "I'm not expecting anything." But Ray shook his head. "I know. I just don't want to be alone tonight." She stood, walked to him, and took his hand. Not a pull, not a plea, just a quiet agreement. They lay down fully clothed side by side, not saying a word. Their closeness was not about bodies, it was about being seen, being human, being broken, together. As the city exhaled around them, Ray whispered to himself, "I slept with her the whole night, yet she wasn't the one I had waited the whole night for." Sunlight tiptoed into the room, painting gentle patterns across the floorboards. Ray opened his eyes slowly, his body still heavy with the weight of the night. Leah was already awake, sitting at the window, wrapped in one of his shirts, her back to him. She held a cup of coffee, watching the city stretch itself into a new day. He sat up, silently, unsure of what this morning would mean, unsure even of what last night truly was. "Hey," he said softly. She turned, smiled faintly. "Didn't want to wake you." Ray ran a hand through his hair, feeling the ache in his chest return, only softer now. "You stayed." "I said I would." Her tone was steady, but something behind her eyes had shifted, something more guarded. They moved around each other like strangers who had once known each other well. Leah returned the mug to the kitchen. Ray joined her, leaning against the counter. "I needed that," he admitted. "The quiet. Your presence." Leah met his gaze. "Me too." There was a pause, stretched thin by unspoken thoughts, and then, gently, she asked, "Do you still want Nina?" Ray didn't answer. Right away. He stared at the tile beneath his feet, then looked up. "I don't know what I want. I waited for her and she didn't come. But somehow I didn't feel alone last night. That means something, doesn't it?" "It does," she said. "But meaning isn't always the same as direction." Before Ray could respond, his phone buzzed on the table. A message from Nina. Just one line. "I made a mistake. Can we talk?" He stared at the screen, his breath catching. His heart, foolish and hopeful, leapt before reason could anchor it. Leah saw his expression shift. "Nina?" she asked quietly. Ray nodded. "You should go," she said, her voice even. "She's the reason you waited, and maybe the reason I was sent to you at all." He looked at her, guilt slowly blooming. "I don't want to hurt you." "You didn't," Leah replied, offering a sad smile. "But you weren't mine to keep, Ray. I just, borrowed a little piece from you last night." Those words lodged deep in his chest. Leah gathered her things, no tears, no anger, just a quiet resignation. She paused at the door. "You'll know soon enough whether she's worth the wait," she said. "But remember, just because someone arrives late doesn't mean they're meant to stay." And with that, she was gone. Ray stood alone in the doorway, the echoes of her footsteps fading down the hall. He looked back at the room where they'd slept, not as lovers, but as lost souls sharing shelter. The phone buzzed again. He picked it up, thumb hovering over Nina's message. Outside, the city pulsed with life. But inside, Ray stood at a crossroads between the girl he had longed for and the woman who had quietly shown him his own heart. Ray stood at the edge of his apartment, Nina's message glowing on the screen like an open door to a past that had never fully formed. He read it again. "I made a mistake. Can we talk?" As if repetition would offer clarity. But clarity, it seemed, was a luxury reserved for simpler moments. He thought of the night before. The rain, the waiting, the disappointment. And then Leah. A stranger who had walked into his life wearing someone else's shadow, only to become a light of her own. Ray typed and deleted a dozen responses. Each one felt too much, or not enough. Finally, he settled on one line. "Where?" "Nina," replied almost instantly. "Your place?" Part of him wanted to say yes, to let familiarity soften the tension. But the other part, the one still haunted by Leah's quiet strength, knew better. No, somewhere neutral. They agreed to meet at the park they had once dreamed of walking through together. Ray arrived first. The air was crisp, the sky a sheet of gray. Children played in the distance, oblivious to the emotional terrain unfolding near them. Nina approached wearing a long coat, her hair down, eyes cautious. "You look tired," she said. "I am." She sat beside him on the bench. The silence between them this time was not peaceful. It was heavy, necessary. "I panicked," she admitted. "The idea of meeting you, it was too real. I built you up in my head. I didn't know if I could be enough." Ray looked at her, the woman he had waited for, longed for. She was beautiful still, but the spell had weakened. The fantasy had crumbled, replaced by the undeniable truth of what they were. Potential, not permanence. "You could have told me," he said softly. "I would have understood." "I was afraid you wouldn't wait." "I did." Her eyes searched his. "And did it change anything?" Ray hesitated, remembering Leah's hand. In his, the comfort of her presence, the honesty in her departure. "Yes," he finally said. "It did." Nina lowered her gaze. "Is there someone else?" He didn't answer directly. "There was someone who didn't owe me anything, yet gave me something real, just for one night. And somehow she left a mark deeper than all our months of texting ever did." Nina nodded, absorbing the blow with quiet grace. "So, this is it?" Ray stood. "I think it always was. We just didn't want to see it." She watched him go. No tears, no begging. Just silence. Back at home, Ray found a note Leah had left behind on the windowsill. "Some nights aren't meant to last, but they teach you what daylight you deserve." He smiled faintly. She hadn't stayed, but she had left him something truer than longing. Perspective. He walked to the window, looked out at the city, and breathed. For the first time in a long while, he didn't feel like he was waiting anymore.